Now, the riders obviously aren't going to be in the water, but they're going to be right next to it for much of today's stage. 203 kilometres setting out from Nîmes and hugging the coast for most of that distance before turning briefly inland to aim back at the sea and the finish line in Guisson. So we might see some action amongst the overall contenders if the crosswinds are fierce enough to split the field, although with few chances on this race, the sprinters' teams, what sprinters there are at the Vuelta, will be keen to keep it all together. Among the men 6 seconds behind Rohan Dennis and one capable of taking the 10-second win bonus today is Quick-Step's Matteo Trentin.
Matteo, today's a great chance for you to take the red jersey. Is that how you see it?
Oh yeah, it is. It is actually. Let's see, because the wind is going to be our big friend for the whole day. So let's see how it's going to develop the race.
It all depends also how the day will be, and I think it's going to be really hectic and a very tough and hard day with a lot of crosswind, and we will see. If I'm still there, of course, I try my best, and but also from the team, the main priority is to support Alberto to don't lose time today, especially in the beginning of the Vuelta. Now it's important to stay up there.
I don't think it'll be a bunch sprint, but I think, there's Dagan, Kolb, Sasha Modolo, Jens Deboucher from Lotto, so there's a lot of guys there, Trentin as well, so there's enough fast guys still here, but yeah, it's not like the top guys, but we'll have to see what happens in the wind. I think, it's so easy to miss a group that goes in a wind here, so hopefully I'll be in that front and all of them guys I just mentioned will be in the back.
Chris, you've had an evening and a night to ponder the time gaps from yesterday. You must be pretty satisfied.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially not having done any racing between the Tour and the Vuelta, it was nice to open up yesterday, and legs felt pretty good. So that's a good start at least. And looking at the time gaps to the other GC guys, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. I think TJ van Garderen is probably the most notable GC rival up there who's gained time. Otherwise, pretty much everyone else has lost a bit of time, so that's puts us in a great position going forward.
And we talked before the Vuelta about the dangers on a transitional day on paper like today. You're going to have to be very alert, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the wind's blowing today, so there's no two ways about it. I think the race is going to get split somewhere, and it's just going to be about making sure we're on the right side of that today.
Now, having provided the podium setting and part of the route yesterday, the amphitheatre was the backdrop to the Vuelta's ceremonial departure from Nîmes this morning. And once the flag dropped, we waited for the race to hit the coast and the action to begin. Well, the race did hit the coast, that much was guaranteed, but the action everyone had confidently predicted didn't materialise. In fact, perhaps because they were all braced for the worst, there wasn't even a breakaway. With the most exposed part of the route done and the stage starting to head inland, the whole field was still together. Although as we join commentary, that is starting to change.
10 kilometres to go then, as they bear down on the finishing line, and bit by bit I think some of the energy and the dynamism from those teams like Katusha Alpecin that wanted to try and make this a GC race might just be beginning to ebb away, and you might see just a changing of the teams represented towards the front as the sprinters teams, or those teams that have come to the Vuelta with a genuine fast man in their ranks, start to assert themselves towards the front. Aqua Blue Sport being one of those, with young Mark Christian leading out Adam Blythe, just two of those riders, but still Sunweb persist on the front, and still that just air of tension around the front of the peloton, and at the back it gets harder and harder work. Of those other fast candidates, we've talked about Matteo Trentin, we've talked of course about John Degenkolb with 10 stage victories on the Vuelta. Team Sky don't really have a sprinter, although Gianni Moscon, if he wants to, can do seemingly just about anything. Don't rule out though, and a man we haven't mentioned at all, and he's had a decent year with 4 wins so far to his name, the Italian sprinter for UAE Team Emirates, Sasha Modolo.
Watch out here, I think it's just on the cusp of perhaps breaking up. You see how nervous everybody's getting, the speed escalating, it's stringing out, and there's a lot of teams just sprinting up the side there. You see the flag behind it, it is a pure crosswind, so anything could happen here, especially the speed increases and the pressure is on. And you see there's Orica Scott coming up with Esteban Chavez and Yates on there, but yeah, this is a very dangerous moment.
Well, that sense of alarm, mild growing panic, is reflected in the number of riders having to move around on the outside of the road, on the windy side of the road, if you like, to get themselves onto the front.
And you can see here, this is the danger, and if you're further back in that line out, if a rider in front of you or two riders in front of you loses the wheel, and what happens is they normally lose 1 or 2 bike lengths before giving up, which means when they pull off, you're about 3 or 4 bike lengths away, and that gap is just too big normally at this speed, because they're probably doing about 65, 70 kilometers an hour, and to bridge 3 or 4 bike lengths in that. You can see it starting to happen, there's little gaps opening, and more and more of those will appear.
Yeah, it's about a third of the peloton, the wrong side of a gap that's only about 2 seconds, but grows all the time. And it's all strung out. There's no protection offered, and that group itself will start to splinter into smaller groups of 3 or 4 before too long, unless they can close that now, or unless the road is kind to them ahead, and it just takes the sting out of this crosswind that they've been exposed to. At the moment, though, it's Team Sky with, what, 6 riders right on the front, with Chris Froome being looked after.
Well, there you go. That's timed that to perfection. Whereas before, when Katusha made that little surprise move before, I was a bit bewildered to see a lack of Team Sky riders at the front, but where they're there when they need to be, and they really are pushing this on. Gianni Moscon himself there doing a big job, and he is a weapon of a bike rider. A great future ahead of him.
He's Sagan-esque, isn't he? He is
phenomenal.
Salvatore Puccio also involved, then Christian Knees, Ian Stannard, and then Chris Froome. So they totally dictating things at the moment, Team Sky, with 7k to go.
62 kilometers an hour, and they're in prime position. You can see behind the damage that's being done, but you're pretty safe if you're in that first 40-50, because the initial sort of acceleration, as long as you survive that, it finds its sort of equilibrium, if you like, in the peloton. Whereas behind, if you're caught out, as you can see, you can't fix those small gaps that appear. If you don't bridge it immediately, then it just explodes out.
I'll tell you what, Mark Christian and Adam Blythe have done a brilliant job there. They are just latched onto that Sky train right at the front as Daniel Oss moves in and just takes one of the positions away. But I think they might even have 3 riders there, Aqua Blue Sport. So Blythe has read that, as we were talking about earlier, with his experience of riding in the crosswinds really well. To this point, though, still got 6k to go. Now, who's missed out? Who is that? Omar Freile, I think, from Team Dimension Data. A couple of riders from Manzano Postobon. I think that might be, is it Darwin Atapuma, possibly, from UAE Team Emirates. Nobody of any great GC significance at the moment. One of the Quick-Step Floors riders. That's Serge Pauls, I think, from Dimension Data. So some surprise, Visconti from Bahrain Merida, but none of the favourites caught out at this point.
I think it's Miko Nieve, I think, from Team Sky, but you'd expect him to be back there. His job is to come on later in the race, and he may as well economise his efforts now. There's little point of him wasting energy when he's not here to ride GC. He's here to be a super domestique lieutenant once more to Chris Froome, much as he was at the Tour de France.
And there he is. Chris Froome is right on the front, putting his nose in the wind. Still, it's Moscon who just battles his way on the new.
Stannard.
Oh, Stannard now, yeah. So Stannard and Oss right on the front, 2 very, very powerful riders pushing on. Little rise in the road as well, just to complicate matters further for those who are just beginning to feel it. And you can see riders just dropping off the back of this peloton all the while. There's Adam Blythe, though, on the left-hand side of the road.
So one of the Yates brothers as well.
Bardet out of the saddle and sprinting to get right back up to the front. There he is, just bringing himself back into position, Romain Bardet.
Betancourt as well, so a lot of GC riders up there, the majority of them actually. Astana is making a little move on the right now. That's just positioning, I think. That's not so much an aggression.
Yet. Jesper Hansen is the rider sitting in second wheel there, I think, and he's quite a dangerous rider, but it looks like they're just positioning themselves on the front, possibly to allow Fabio Aru to recover his position. I didn't see actually where that Italian nationals jersey was in that line, but it doesn't look like they're slowing things down any, so they want to keep the pace high as well, Astana. 4.4k to go.
Once again, quite a critical moment here for the GC riders, because if you puncture, you haven't got your team car behind, they'll be counting down so they can get to that 3 kilometres to go mark. At least if that does happen, they'll be safe regards getting the same time as the winner. But this is a fairly nerve-wracking 1.2 kilometres, 1.1 kilometres for those riders, knowing that there are no team cars, no convoy behind to use to get back on if they do have a problem.
We look down at the Fontfroid Abbey on the outskirts of Narbonne. Meanwhile, just 4 kilometres to go. Jesper Hansen and Luis Leon Sanchez, last time we saw, were pushing things on for Astana. And one of those fascinating mixtures of a GC race as well as a sprinters race. And they fuse together in the way that only stage racing can produce. Some of the drama on the road to Narbonne about to unfold. wonderful scenery and potentially a wonderful last 3.5 kilometres of this bike race now.
Here you go, Ian Stannard doing his final work for the day. Just got to take us as far as he can, and then he'll peel off and leave it to the other riders.
3 riders from Quick-Step Floors then.
Aqua Blue still very well placed there, just behind the Cannondale Drapac riders. Luis Leon Sanchez of Astana in second position. Nibali just moving up there as well, so it's all the usual suspects that are up the front.
Nicky Terpstra as well, looming large for Quick-Step Floors. Tim de Klerk, his teammate, just dropping towards the back in the blue jersey from Quick-Step, but looks like Matteo Trentini is in the right place, and David de la Cruz, one would hope from their sake, also towards the front, their big GC man for the day. For the race. 2.5k to go as they head towards the finish line right on the coast at Gruisson. It's been a long stage, 203.4. It has been tense all day. A breakaway has not gone. The wind has blown incessantly, and that is, look at that flag blowing. That is pure cross-tail wind at this point. 2.2k to go.
Yeah, that's the day. Look at that, because they're just coming out. This has got to be so careful here. Look, that's going to split so easily. You see the weak rider just in front of you to open a gap, and it's all over. Aqua Blue riders there just trying to look. Adam Blythe is getting maximum protection from his teammate, but look, the gaps are opening. That's Adam Blythe just closing himself. So there you go. We're in the danger zone now.
Nearly there. Blythe is there. He's got onto the wheel of Daniel Oss, and in front of them there are 3 Quick-Step Floors riders, or 2 at least, and 1 rider from UAE Team Emirates. As Trek Segafredo, I think possibly with Markel Irizar. Just does he latch on?
Alaphilippe, isn't it? It's Alaphilippe that's doing the damage here, I think. So it's yeah. Look at that. That's a massive turn he's made there. That's doing all that damage. Look behind. It's ripped to pieces.
Well, there we go. That is the expected. It's come very late on, but finally this peloton is starting to disintegrate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 or 8 little groups, and it's going to be very difficult to close them as they drive on. Quick-Step Floors, this is in their DNA. This is what they do. They exploit race situations like this perfectly. Matteo Trentin just glances over to see who is coming across and whether this group will re-establish itself. Maybe 10 riders now have come back together.
That Cannondale Drapac rider's done a magnificent ride. It was him that closed the gap down, and look, now he's just blown up and he's going to roll back, but he's done his job now. So
Quick-Step Floors have produced an unexpected tactic here, launching a ride. I think it's Yves Lampert right off the front, and Matteo Trentin is blocking at the front as well.
Yeah, and you can see Daniel Oss from BMC in the white jersey knows the threat. He's only 6 seconds behind. He can't let him get away because he'll get the jersey if he gets a bigger gap.
But can he get there? Lampert, he is the reigning Belgian national time trial champion. He's not got far to go, you know, and it's going to be hard to close him down. It's just Oss against Lampert, and it was a big attack, and it was a decisive attack potentially. He's going to get there, is he? Where's the finish line? If the camera widens out, we'll see just how far he's got to go. One last corner. There's Oss. Trentin, of course, is not chasing, although he too will be trying to hunt down bonus seconds. 10 seconds on the line and a gap potentially. This could be the jersey for Quick-Step Floors, but not for Trentin, but Yves Lampert. And look, Matteo Trentin probably settling for second place, but he too knows they have produced a brilliant tactical ride there.
Oh, that was just textbook Quick-Step. You called it early on in the stage, Ned, when you said you expect Quick-Step to come to the front and in the crosswinds, and they waited until inside 3 kilometres to go. I mean, the timing was perfect. They did it when everybody was tired. They did it when the race is at its fastest, and it worked perfectly. And it was Alaphilippe that did all the damage. It was him alone that's done all those splits we're just seeing now as the riders cross. That was that one move from Quick-Step inside the last 3 or 4 kilometres.
By the looks of these little groups coming over the line, it doesn't seem there's too much urgency there, which would suggest none of the big favourites have been caught out. So over to you, Quick-Step Floors. That was absolutely brilliant. That's what they do. They took advantage of those race conditions to perfection today, and you're looking at the new leader of the Vuelta.
Yes, and not only that, but Matteo Trentin's 6-second bonus for second place will also put him second overall, so a great result for Quick-Step. And a pretty good one for Adam Blythe, third, which is his best finish on a Grand Tour stage. The first 10 riders were all given the same time, the 10th of them being Vincenzo Nibali. And then the split started, 5 seconds to Esteban Chavez and 8 to a group including Chris Froome, Fabio Aru and Adam Yates. Simon Yates was in the group behind with Alberto Contador, Romain Bardet and Warren Barguil all at 13 seconds.
Adam, it all got pretty chaotic in those last 3 kilometres. Take us through it from your point of view.
Last 3k, you know, it was down into a left-hand roundabout, and I knew from then on, like from there, it was a bit crosswind, so we had to be in good position for the next sort of K, and did that. I just had to do a little effort to make it across the Quick-Step that was splitting at the time, which sort of took it out of me a bit, put me into the red. But yeah, you know, I was like gutted, but also quite happy. I'm not really third's good, but you know, I was here to win, and I just couldn't manage it today, sadly.
Is there anything else you could have done to stop Lampert going away?
Not for me in that situation. I think if I was directly on Oss's wheel when it just went there, maybe I'll have had a little bit more in a sprint, but I just went into the red a little bit with like K.5 to go, and then that was that, you know. I was pretty pinned from then on in, so yeah, personally I couldn't really done anything, but as bike racing, you know, quick step are intelligent, and when we came into a K to go, I saw him letting him go, and I was like, oh, it's either going to be Oss is there to chase it down, but yeah, it was a bit of a gutter.
Now, the podium today was pretty much the Yves Lampert show, on first for the stage win, for which he received a scale model of a lifeguard station. Then the red leader's jersey, which was awarded to him, then yanked off him so he could be given the green. Not the most elegant costume change, but I don't suppose he minded. And he was back in red by the time he spoke to Daniel Friebe.
Yves, we know your team are masters of crosswinds, and you proved it today.
Yes, we did. It was a very nervous day today. I saw it. There was no breakaway. There were a lot of tries during the race, but we knew we had to do it in the end. The last 10K, we said in the meeting, there is the plan that we go as team. And at the end, it was the last 4K, but still, what we did was very high level.
And talk us through those last 4 kilometres. What kind of dialogue was happening between you and your teammates and the directors?
With the director, not a lot. I didn't hear not much, but with Nicky, that went full out block the last 3K. Then Alaphilippe went over it till the last K, and then Matteo shouted at me that I had to go alone. And I could keep it till the end, and we got 1 and 2 today, so it was an amazing day for the team.
And here's the end result of it. Lampert's leading Matteo Trentin by a single second, Trentin having picked up 3 at the intermediate sprint, which barely registered on the coverage. Daniel Oss is third, ahead of TJ Van Garderen and Nicolas Roche, and this morning's race leader Rohan Dennis. Julian Alaphilippe, who did all the damage on the run-in, is 7th, Wilco Kelderman 8th, and Chris Froome is up into the top 10 with his teammate Wout Poels. Esteban Chaves is only 5 seconds behind Froome now, and Vincenzo Nibali 14 instead of the 22 he was this morning. Alberto Contador slips out to over half a minute behind Froome, just ahead of Fabio Aru. Romain Bardet is 42 seconds behind him, 1:03 off the leader.
Chris, it all got very aggressive in the last 10 kilometres. Take us inside your mind and your legs at that point.
Yeah, it did get pretty tricky in the final there, but I think the guys did a great job all day, riding up front all day. I think in the last few kilometres we were probably a little bit short coming into the last few K, but I think with that, still happy with that result. I think we did a great ride today, and I think the guys, kept myself and Wout right up front. Pretty much all the stage, so we definitely can't complain with that. I think just a few seconds lost to Vincenzo Nibali and Esteban Chaves, but a bit of time gained also on Contador and a lot of the other GC guys, so I think we can be pretty happy with that with the mountains tomorrow.